Welcome back, everybody. The History Guy here. It's been a little while since I've visited this series, but this is episode 10, playing Hearts of Iron 4 as the fascist nation of Brazil. It is April of 1945. The war in Europe is largely over. I have to basically fend for myself now and prepare for what I know will be the inevitable invasions to come. A couple things I was looking over since the last time I played, and one of those is the occupied territories. I'm occupying, obviously, a number of territories. United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Colombia, the Netherlands has some areas, France and the UK. Those are all down here in South America. Honduras, Guatemala, Costa Rica, Nicaragua. So, excuse me, with all of that said, I was looking at the occupation policies because that has an effect on the resources that you gain, the factories that you control, and, of course, how much political power it costs to manage those. I've got tons of political power. What I need are more factories. So I'm actually going to start with the United States and go to the harshest occupation policies so I can get those extra factories. And we'll see what that does moving forward. I should still have more than enough. Yeah, political power is still heading in a positive direction. I'll have to manage that accordingly, but you can see my factories just went from 390 to 543. So it's obviously something I should have done a long time ago and just never even occurred to me for whatever reason. So I've suddenly got all these extra military factories and naval dockyards. The war could have been very different if I had been doing this all along. So consider that lesson learned. It'll be one of those things I'll be much more equipped for the next time around. So we'll kind of see how this goes. My phone's been ringing a lot lately because my wife and I are in the middle of buying a house. I mentioned that on one of the previous videos. So that's kind of, you're going to see kind of a little bit of a slowdown in how frequently I'm putting videos out. May not be every single day for a little while, just as we're in the process of packing up and moving from one place to another. But anyway, so I've got a lot to kind of go in and deal with. I won't show you all of that. We'll keep it to the action. So I'm going to go in and reallocate where all my factories are going and what I'm producing. Manpower, if it gets down real low, there's some things I can do to address that, but we'll get to that when the time comes. Okay, so I've also gone ahead, now that I've gotten everything taken care of with the factories, the other thing that I've gone ahead and done is I've totally revamped my armies. I still need to go in and make sure I have the right... There we go. The right generals in these places. But what I've done is I've turned everything into a garrison. British Empire capitulated. That was a mistake, kind of a waste of resources on my part to try and start a coup in the UK when I had no ability whatsoever to support that coup through troops. There was no way they were going to be able to do that on their own without that. So that was just kind of a waste of time. All right, there's jet fighters. I'll get back to the Army situation in just a second here. I want to do naval bombers because the other thing I'm going to start doing is building a bunch of naval bombers to where I can just park them all along my coast and have them patrolling constantly. So while I can't build a full navy that can compete with the Allied powers, I can harass them constantly with a ton of planes in the air that are constantly attacking those ships. So what I've done is I've created 3 commands, similar to what the United States Army does today with the military, basically different zones around the world. So I've got the North American Command, which is going to oversee all of the shoreline in North America, mainly the United States, but also parts of Canada. What I've gone and done is I've issued a garrison order to all of the coastline, as you can see right here, and then I've told them to only guard the coast. So they're not going to park troops inside or guard victory points, just guard the coast. So they're moving into position for that. I've also got a Central Command, which has the same idea. They're going to guard Baja, Mexico against these troops moving further up. They're also going to watch the shoreline down here in Mexico and in Central America. And then lastly, I have my South American Command, which is going to guard the shoreline here in my native Brazil. Eventually, I may need to extend it to down here, but so far, I feel like if they're going to land, they're going to do it on my northern coast because it's a shorter approach. So that's what I'm doing. And like I said, I'll get the air power going here shortly. Also counting down the time till I can start producing nukes. With that said, because I think I got a lot of factories going at this point, I think I'm going to go ahead and start producing some additional nuclear reactors, just because they're going to come in really handy when I need to produce more nukes. Each nuclear reactor basically gives me the ability to produce one nuclear weapon per year, and I'm going to need far more than that. So I'm going to start queuing up a bunch of new nuclear reactors, with the idea being that I can't compete in terms of numbers. I can just start nuking people. It's not real ethical, and certainly kind of, if it happened in real life, would certainly rub me the wrong way, but it's a game, so that's what I'm going to do. The war itself is going 17% against me at this point. I don't expect that to get any better. And at some point fairly soon, we should see Italy capitulating and Vichy France, and that'll basically do it for the war in Europe at that point. And no sooner had I dropped out on the recording, but Italy capitulated. So they're out. That obviously moves things even further in the direction of the war going in favor of the defenders. In order to call for peace talks, it's got to get to 50%, which means he's going to have to take some of my territory. Now, it may be that in the long run, I'd rather it just happen that way, just so I can get the war done with, because I know I can't win. All I can do is keep from losing. But I don't know how much I would have to give up of my territory in order to make that happen. So that's one of those things we'll just have to keep an eye on. At what point do I just let him march in, take some territory, and hope that's enough to satisfy him and I can hang on to some of what I've gained. All right, it's May 8th. Historically, when Germany, I believe, signed their formal surrender right about this time, Vichy France has capitulated. Naval bombers have been completed. I'm immediately going to start queuing some of those up, but I'm also going to keep researching those. I want to get some that have better technology. So while we're working on that, let's start producing some naval bombers, start getting some groups of those built all along my coast. I also want to start producing some jet fighters. So I'm actually going to put naval bombers all the way up to the front, and we're also going to do some jet fighters and get them going all the way up top as well. Those are two things hopefully that'll help me moving forward as things go along here. I guess I'm going to have to unassign some other factories to make this happen. There we go. Now, all right, the next thing coming, excuse me, is we got Battleship 3 in about 8 days. I'll start queuing up something else in terms of naval warfare after that. And then we've got strategic bombers and nukes on the way. All right, we're into June of 1945, and I'm continuing on with various research. I want to pause for just a second here. I want to take a look at where we're at on some things. Let's get that production a little bit more efficient. We're 11 days away from some submarine research complete. It'll be level 2 on the submarine. 17 days away from strategic bombers. And it's been pretty quiet on the invasion front. He hasn't really tried to do anything yet. I do need to keep one eye over here on the west because I don't have any troops over there, but largely because he hasn't really tried to do anything over there. Japan hasn't really done much either. They still control Oahu, and it looks like right here, Gilbert Islands, the UK owns that, so I don't really know exactly what Japan's doing. It looks like Germany controls some of the territory over here, but now that the Soviet Union doesn't have a fight in the west, they've turned their attention on Japan in the east, and it looks like they're starting to push them back there. So, war's at 24% in favor of defenders. What would be really nice is if he's able to gather up enough points from taking on Japan without having to take them from me to be able to put a stop to this war. So we'll see if it comes to that. All right, we're at the end of June 1945, and there are strategic bombers. So let's go ahead and look at where we are with air power. I think we're going to go back to strat bombers and do strategic bomber 2. Next thing will be nukes. 23 days away from my first nuclear weapons. Obviously, they won't have a huge impact right off the bat, but that'll change. I gotta queue this one up because it was almost done. There we go. And still nothing happening anywhere along my coast. I spoke too soon. Here comes an invasion on my coast. So I'm going to rush all of these units into the field. The ones that I was in the middle of producing. And I'm going to put all of them right up into that area. And we'll go ahead and assign all of them to the South American Command. So once they deal with that, then they can kind of do what they want. Or South American Command can put them where they want. Alright, that invasion is over just like that. Perfect. Again, I spoke too soon. There's an invasion happening over here. That one actually looks like it may be going fairly well for him at the moment. So we're going to send these guys over here instead. Get a few more divisions in there, and that should put an end to that invasion attempt. He is coming at me and coming at me hard. I might as well just stick with this for a little bit. It's July 8th now, and now he is invading Central America, and it looks like he's got an opportunity for success here. So I'm going to need to move some troops down to deal with this threat. And he did successfully land up here on the shore in Colombia. I think that's Colombia. But this threat down here has been dealt with, so now we're dealing with Central America. And also, it appears, where is this? I don't think I even realized that the Dominican Republic was part of my purview. Alright, this is the main area for concern right now. Right over here. That, and of course, where he actually has a landing. But we'll push him out real quick right here. So this is going to be the story of my life, I think, for the foreseeable future, is dealing with pesky invasions here and there as they land, and just making sure that they don't get any more than a toehold and that I push them back off as quickly as possible. I think I'm going to need to get some more units up to help out with what's happening in Central America. Alright, I think I drove that one off, at least for now. All clear. Alright, and pretty much in line with when it happened historically for the United States, I am now a nuclear power. My first nuclear bombs are being produced, and it looks like my first one will be done in 183 days, so I have 2 nuclear reactors, enough to build one every 6 months. We're going to certainly need way more than that if it really gets ugly. So we're going to start working on radar so we can start seeing what's happening off the coast a little bit more. And then I just got to deal with some issues of trade. I'm not getting enough rubber from the Siamese Empire right now. And there's really nowhere else I'm able to get it from, unfortunately. Alright, but we are a nuclear power. The war's actually gotten slightly better for me, interestingly enough. But for the first time, I think, in the war's history, the Allies now have more fielded manpower than the Axis, and you can see how much more we've lost than they have. I've lost over 1 million men myself. Germans lost 9.5 million. Japan's lost almost 4 million, and they're still going strong in this thing. On the Allied side, France and the UK and the United States, 2 million as well. Wow. Well, we're into September, late September 1945. The invasion barrage continues. He's constantly trying to make landings at different places on my coastline. It's a lot of coastline. I basically am covering the entire Atlantic coast in both North and South America. So it's a lot of ground to cover. And it means a lot of just moving some folks around to make sure everything's covered. Eventually, I'll get enough naval bombers that I'll start patrolling more of my shores. I've only got about 60 or 70 of them so far. He has landed in Honduras, so I'm in the process of sending some troops there to deal with that. Oh, we've got an ace pilot. That's cool. Also, you can see my manpower is now under 1 million as I'm constantly fighting off all of these invasions everywhere. I may be at the place where I need to consider maybe shifting some of these units up here in North America down to South America, just because I think they'll have more of an impact down there. He hasn't lately tried to land in North America. Plus, I've got a naval flotilla patrolling up there. All right. So he's got this foothold. I've got to deal with it as quickly as I can. Push him back out. Once I get all those troops into place, I ought to be able to do that. So every so often, Japan does this Lend-Lease. So I've got all these like random types of weapons sitting around that I don't really have a lot to do with. He's got some footholds here that I've got to deal with as well. And we're into October. So a bunch of things coming up pretty soon in the next month or so. Strategic Bomber 2, assembly line production, decimetric radar, and construction 4. So improvements to things construction-wise. Mostly, though, right now it's all about just fending off these invasions as best I can. Nothing has changed, really. It's back to 24%, but it's really basically a stalemate, which is kind of boring, really, especially probably for you who are watching. So I'll try to make it as interesting as I can without a whole lot happening. We're well into the fall of 1945 now. Let's see what's happening over here. Yeah, Comintern's really pushing back on the Axis now in the east. I'm hoping that'll be enough to end things for this war. No sooner had I talked about the fact that nothing was happening in North America than he lands, looks like right around Orlando. So we're going to have to go in and deal with that. Just start sending everybody down there. The nice thing about Florida is guarding the coastline basically meant I had troops everywhere. So it should be fairly short order for me to get enough down there to push him out. But he is all over the place. We've got that invasion. We've got the one down here that I just pushed off. He had tried to invade there. We're still dealing with the one here on the northern tip of South America. And I did finally push him out of Honduras. Let's see what's happening over here. All right, things are looking good. We'll get them pushed out of Cape Canaveral over here fairly soon. So I'm pretty much doing what I need to do with all these various invasions. It's just more of an annoyance than anything. But long term, I'm just not sure what's going to happen with all of this. Alright, I guess I got all the divisions assigned. We're about to produce our first nuke. I've got 4 nuclear reactors now, so I'm going to be making 4 of those a year. It looks like 1% per day, so another 3 weeks we'll have our first nuke available to us. Not going to use it quite yet, though. And let's see where we're at on some production. Decimetric radar is about complete, so we'll stick around long enough to queue up the next one in that line. And we had a victory in a naval battle. Looks like it was just 2 battleships. Why do I have just 2 battleships going by themselves? I'm going to have to take a look at my fleet and see what the problem is here. Oh, I've got a fleet with no commander. That I guess I should give some orders to. And hopefully they'll do all right for themselves. All right, we've driven the invaders from Orlando and Cape Canaveral in that area. Looks like we're okay here. Just a couple of little areas we got to deal with, mainly this one. And I don't really have the troops to be able to do anything about it at the moment. All right, we're into November 1945 and doing pretty well for myself with the Navy. Of course, it helps you have 99 naval bombers along with a battleship and a bunch of light cruisers going up against a couple heavy cruisers and light cruisers, and I sank all 3 of them. So hopefully we're going to see a lot more of those types of things happening. A lot of American ships that I've been sinking, so I don't know where they're getting produced, or maybe they're just existing ones that were already out there, but that's one of the things I'm going to have to start doing more of, is just get more and more planes into the fight. Let's see if I have any more surplus naval bombers that I could form another unit. Yeah, I do. Perfect. So we'll get another one of these going down here in South America, I think. Where are my airfields? So we'll get one there. We'll allow them to get up to 100. And then we're going to let them do naval strikes. I think they're too far away. So we'll go there and do that. I'll probably go another month or 2. We'll try to take this to about the end of 1945. And then we'll wrap it up. I know it's been a short episode, but there's a lot going on. And it's pretty spread out just because I've been pausing and jumping in and out a lot here. Flexible line, let's see, concentrated industry 5. I think that's the way we'll go here. So just kind of looking at the lay of the land, as it were, holding on to all my territory. You see lots of naval battles here happening, but that's because I've got those planes patrolling. And so it looks like they are weakening, but not necessarily destroying anything. And he's got planes as well, so I'm going to have to get more, I think, more fighters going up here to try to deal with all of that and help with air supremacy. Things look kind of weird in Europe, but that's just because Belgium, the Netherlands, and Poland have occupied most of Germany. And Japan continues to get pushed. They're almost, well, no, because here's Germany. So things are, I guess, at a kind of a stalemate there right now. All right, so just kind of thinking about the next steps for me here. And one of the things I think I'm going to do, especially since I have this endless train of repairs that need done to factories, is I'm going to go ahead and start, and I don't know why that is, by the way, that I've got so many that need repaired, because I don't think he's bombing me or anything. But so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start queuing up some coastal forts in these areas where he's continually hitting me with attacks. Hopefully that'll at least slow him down a little bit. Now, obviously, just level 1 forts aren't going to do a whole lot, but I got to start somewhere, and then we'll kind of go from there. And I don't imagine these will take incredibly long to build. So I'll get them all queued up to the front of the line, and then we'll see how long they're going to take. All right, so like 6 days. Oh, that's awesome. That won't take long at all. So I can start putting those up pretty fast, and that should hopefully slow him down a little bit. My own Atlantic wall. So we'll take this to the end of 1945, and I think I'll wrap up the episode there, even though there's not necessarily a real lengthy amount of time in this episode. Alright, well, it looks like the Allies did land here, but we've already defeated their army, and we're going to push it out. There's Construction 4. I've got my first nuclear weapon available to me. I'm going to start stockpiling those, because if I get hammered hard somewhere and I'm desperate for some way of fending him off, that becomes an option for me. I do have improved rocket engines queued up. 53 more days, that'll be done. I want to eventually get to advanced rocket engines, which will give me some advanced guided missiles, which hopefully I can plop some nukes on top of and launch them without having to use planes to do it. Continue working on air doctrine. And we're about to throw off this invasion here. Starting to get those coastal forts into place. And another invasion attempt here. But also, I've got a naval battle underway. This is my smaller of my two fleets. This is the one that has the one battleship as well as 6 light cruisers. And it looks like we're engaging the King George V, which is one of the crown jewels of the British fleet. And it looks like so far it's doing pretty well against my battleship. So I may have a little trouble in this battle with this smaller fleet going up against this British Navy here. Hopefully I can escape with my life. But otherwise, so far the Allies have not posed any real serious threat to me in terms of landing. Looks like we're at 26%. That's about as bad as the war has gotten. Obviously, that's got to be Japan and how they're faring in their war out east. Yeah, it's just not a lot changing. It's been almost another year. Imagine we're going into 1946 and still nothing. What is going on here? Oh, these are Japanese units trying to land on the northern coast of Spain. That's kind of cool. Never thought I'd see the day when the Japanese army would be landing in Spain. Love it. All right, I lost 3 light cruisers, sank a couple of heavy cruisers, shot down some planes. But down to 4, just 4 units left in that fleet. Well, as we get into December of 1945, I'm just looking at my air power here, and I've got air superiority everywhere along my coast, and I've actually got some older fighters sitting around that I could put into action if need be. But for the time being, it looks like I'm good everywhere along the way. These are naval bombers that I've got to get into the action here. So let's move them here and then get them attacking, get some naval strikes going in this region here where he's been landing. So hopefully that'll help with that. I'm down to 631,000 in manpower, so I think it's probably time for me to go ahead and look at changing my conscription laws. So we're going to go to service by requirement. And that gets me back up to almost 3 million. So I should be good for a while with that. Let's take one last look at where things stand. We're at 31% now in favor of the defenders. And again, that's happened without any damage done to my domain. Now, I don't know what that's going to look like once we get right down to suing for peace. I'm just hoping I'll be able to hang on to something. Even if I can just hang on to maybe Mexico and Central America, I guess that'll probably have to be good enough, at least until the next war. So I'm going to wrap it up right here. Not a lot happening, obviously, but that's just kind of the nature of where things are right now. There's nothing for me to conquer. It's just about defense at the moment and hanging on for dear life while all of my Axis brethren fall one by one. So as always, I want to welcome your input, your comments, your questions, your observations, any and all things that you might have to say about all this. Use the comment section below. Probably won't be too many more episodes of this particular series, but I will continue to play Hearts of Iron 4, so if you've got any suggestions about what you'd like to see me do next, now's a great time to start getting that input in there. I'm going to have a channel update later on today or tomorrow with a couple of questions about my next live broadcast that I'm going to do here sometime probably this weekend. So we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.